Wasn't that delicious?
So good.
Your bill, ladies?
I got it.
No, I got it.
Seriously, I insist. I insisted first.
Oh, don't be silly.
You don't be silly.
People with the Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card prefer to pay because they earn unlimited 2% cash rewards on purchases.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors for it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
No!
The Wells Fargo Active Cash credit card. Visit wellsfargo.com/activecash. Terms apply.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. In the year 1000 AD, a Norse sailor named Leif Erikson landed on the coast of North America. He was approximately 500 years ahead of Christopher Columbus. He built a settlement. He wintered there. He called the place Vinland. And then he left. For nearly 1,000 years afterward, the story of what Leif Erikson had found was preserved in the oral and written traditions of Iceland, in the sagas, those extraordinary prose narratives that the Norse people used to record their history, their genealogies, and their exploits at the edge of the unknown world. For nearly 1,000 years, most of the rest of the world dismissed those sagas as legend. They were not legend. They were real history. Our history brief today covers some recent history news. A quick word from our sponsors.
This is Jacob Goldstein from What's Your Problem? When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
This day in history. On June 1st, 1792, Kentucky became the 15th state admitted to the Union, continuing the young nation's westward growth beyond the Appalachian Mountains. On June 1st, 1967, the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, an album that revolutionized popular music and transformed the idea of what a studio album could be. Story of the day. The Norse expansion westward across the North Atlantic was one of the great feats of seamanship in human history. It did not happen all at once. It happened in stages, each one pushing further into unknown water, and each one building on the knowledge and the audacity of the voyage before it. The Norse had settled Iceland by the late 9th century. Eric the Red, Leif Erikson's father, a man exiled from Iceland for manslaughter with a talent for finding new places to start over, discovered and settled Greenland around 985 AD. The discovery of North America came almost by accident. A Norse trader named Bjarni Herjolfsson, sailing from Iceland to Greenland around 986 AD, was blown off course by storms and sighted an unknown forested coastline to the west. He did not land. He turned his ship around and sailed back to Greenland. But he told people what he had seen. And Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, bought Bjarni's ship, recruited a crew of 35 men, and then sailed west to find what Bjarni had described. The sagas, specifically the Greenlander's saga and the saga of Eric the Red, describe what Leif found in considerable detail. He made landfall at 3 places along the North American coast, giving each a name: Helluland or Flat Rock Land, almost certainly Baffin Island; Markland or Forest Land, almost certainly Labrador; and Vinland, Wineland or Meadowland, The translation is still debated on that one. Somewhere further south, where the land was fertile, timber was abundant, and wild grapes or berries grew in sufficient quantities to give the place its name. At Vinland, Leif's expedition built a settlement, log houses, a base camp, a place to winter, before returning to Greenland with a cargo of timber and grapes. His brother Thorvald followed. A large expedition led by a Norse merchant named Corfin Karlsefni attempted a permanent settlement, bringing livestock and approximately 160 people, including women and children. The sagas describe 3 years of attempting to establish a colony, trade with the indigenous people the Norse called Skarlings, which deteriorated into conflict, and an eventual decision to abandon the settlement. The Norse left North America. The story, however, entered the sagas. And there it stayed, taken seriously by Scandinavian scholars, but dismissed or ignored by most of the wider historical world for the better part of the millennium. The skepticism was not entirely unreasonable. The sagas were oral traditions committed to writing centuries after the events that they described. They contained elements that were clearly legendary or even embellished. And without physical evidence, without an archaeological site that could be dated or verified, the Vinland voyages remained, for mainstream scholarship, an interesting but unproven claim. The physical evidence finally arrived in 1960. A Norwegian explorer and writer named Helge Ingstad and his archaeologist wife, Anne Stein Ingstad, had spent years studying the sagas and attempting to determine where Vinland had actually been. Their methodology was very straightforward. They sailed along the northeastern coast of North America, stopping at fishing villages and asking local people if they knew of any old ruins in the area. At Meadows, a remote settlement on the northern tip of Newfoundland, a local fisherman named George Decker said yes. He led them to a series of grass-covered mounds in a meadow near the sea. The Ingstads began excavating. What they found beneath those grass covered mounds were the remains of 8 Norse style buildings, longhouses, and smaller structures built in the same architectural tradition as building excavated in Greenland and Iceland. A bronze ring headed pin of Norse design, a spindle whorl, evidence of textile production, and evidence that women had been present at the site, a stone oil lamp of Norse type, worked iron and slang from a smithy, significant because the indigenous peoples of Newfoundland did not work iron at all. Radiocarbon dating placed the occupation of this site at approximately 1000 AD. Meadows was a Norse settlement on the coast of North America, occupied around the turn of the first millennium. It was exactly what the sagas had described. The scholarly world had to reckon with the fact that it had spent decades resisting. Leif Erikson had been there 500 years before Columbus. Meadows is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is the only confirmed Norse site in North America, but it is almost certainly not the only place that the Norse visited or attempted to settle. The sagas describe multiple locations along the coast. In 2021, researchers using satellite imagery and analysis of tree ring data confirmed that Norse activity at Lancelot Meadows occurred around 1021 AD, the most precise dating yet achieved for a pre-Columbian European presence in the Americas. The question of why the Norse did not stay, why they abandoned their North American settlements after just a few years when they had successfully colonized Iceland and Greenland, is one historians still debate to this day. The most persuasive answers involve the indigenous population. The Norse were not arriving in an empty land. The people the sagas called Skarlings were there first, in numbers that made permanent Norse settlement untenable against sustained resistance. The Norse had the ships and the audacity to cross the North Atlantic. They did not have the numbers to hold what they found when they got there. The History Brief. Today on some history news, we're heading from ancient Rome to suburban Louisiana, where a routine backyard cleanup uncovered a mystery spanning nearly 2,000 years. According to reporting from the Smithsonian Magazine, a married couple in New Orleans discovered what looked like an old stone slab buried beneath overgrown vegetation behind their home. At first, they feared it might mark an unrecorded cemetery beneath their property. But when experts examined the object more closely, they realized that they had uncovered something extraordinary: a Roman gravestone dating back to the 2nd century CE. The marble stone bore a Latin inscription honoring a man named Sextus Congenius Verus, a Roman military sailor who served aboard a warship called the Asclepius. The inscription explained that he had lived to the age of 42 and spent 22 years in military service. But the biggest mystery wasn't who the man was. It was how this gravestone ended up buried in a backyard nearly 5,000 miles from Rome. Archaeologists quickly realized the inscription matched records from a stone that had once belonged to a museum in Italy near an ancient Roman naval base. The artifact had disappeared sometime during or after World War II, when Allied bombings devastated the museum and much of its collection vanished. Suddenly, what started as a strange backyard discovery became an international investigation involving archaeologists, Tulane University scholars, and the FBI's art crime team, and Italian authorities. And eventually, researchers solved the mystery. After media coverage spread, descendants of a former homeowner came forward with a possible explanation. Their grandfather, Charles Paddock Jr., had served in Italy with the U.S. Army during World War II and later brought the stone back to New Orleans, where it became little more than a garden decor for decades. In other words, a Roman soldier's memorial, created nearly 2 millennia ago, had quietly spent decades hidden among weeds in Louisiana. Now, after extensive coordination, the gravestone has officially been returned to Italy and placed back into the collection of the National Archaeological Museum. The Romans believed gravestones preserved memory, that by carving someone's name into stone, they could ensure the dead were never entirely forgotten. For centuries, Sextus Verus was lost to history. His memorial vanished in war, crossed an ocean, and disappeared into a backyard. And yet, somehow, against all odds, his name survived. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you're enjoying this show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both of those links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. Make sure you also check out our YouTube channel, where we have different videos and series that are not part of this main feed. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.